Hey, everybody, welcome back to another fantastic edition of the His and Her Money Show, where we make it our business to help you take dominion over your money and your life. Thank you for tuning in to this show because you could be listening or watching a whole lot of other shows, but you're here with us. And for that, we want you to know that we're grateful and thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already done so, make sure that you leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening to this show on. It helps us get this message out even further. You know that Ty and I's mission is to help as many people as we possibly can. And you can help us do that by leaving a review and letting folks know that this is the type of show that they should be tuned into. We are excited, beyond excited about today's episode because we have a very special guest in the wings waiting to share his wisdom and knowledge with all of us today. We've been a fan of our special guest today for a very long time from afar. So it is a pleasure that we get to talk to him up close and personal on today. Who am I talking about? None other than Dr. Dharius Daniels. He is a motivational speaker. He's a coach. He's a pastor. He's just a good guy. And he's also got a brand new book that just dropped called Your Purpose is Calling. And for a lot of you, you've been trying to figure out this thing called purpose. You've been trying to figure out, what am I supposed to be doing? Well, that's why Dr. Dharius is here, to talk us through this a little bit and help us all get a little more equipped for the journey ahead. Let me get out the way. Let me not delay this any further. Let me get Dr. Dharius on so we can hear all of his wisdom on this matter. Hey, Dr. Dharius, welcome to the His and Her Money Show.
What's up, brother? Listen, I'm excited to be here, man. I'm looking forward to our conversation. I was just telling you a little bit offline. We family, so we're just about to have just a talk.
Let's do it. I'm so excited. Now, you have major impact across the world for a couple decades now, but there may be a few people who are being introduced to you for the very first time right here and right now. So for them, could you say hello and then just kind of let them know what you are all about?
Well, what's up, everybody? I think for first and foremost, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say kind of my heart's desire, and there are a number of different vehicles through which I do this, but really my heart's desire is to see as many people as possible change their life so they can contribute to changing the world. I don't think any one person can change the whole world, but we all have worlds that we live in, that we impact, right? The medical world, the entertainment world, the governmental world, the business world. And so I want to help as many people as possible, not only transform their life, but equip them to transform the world, man. And we try to do that through our churches, our companies, our content, but it's really all about change, not just for the purpose of change, but change for the purpose of making a change. I'm just a country boy from Mississippi that's trying to do that, brother. That's it.
Now, I mean, let's go right there then, because some people they might say, "Man, yeah, that makes sense for your life. You've been on some of the biggest stages in the world. You've had influence over tens of thousands of people over your career. That kind of makes sense that you would be talking about change the world. But I'm just me.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to change the world? How am I supposed to make an impact on this world? Are you sure you're talking to me? How would you approach that person?"
Yeah. Well, one thing I would say is 1000% I'm talking to you. I'm talking exactly to you. I'm talking specifically to you. And I don't apologize for saying this to you. So, what I'm really talking about is purpose. I mean, so when you talk about what is the unique contribution I'm supposed to make to the world, that's really kind of that's kind of like a compass. So we begin the conversation around that subject matter when it comes to like this word purpose. And so everybody's not supposed to make the same difference. And I'm not saying you're supposed to make my difference. I'm saying you're supposed to make your difference. And that is why you exist. And until you figure that out, until you figure out your calling, you will not be able to get your highest form of compensation. And your highest form of compensation is not finances. That's important. Highest form of compensation is fulfillment. People without fulfillment always feel poor.
I mean, you're not wasting any time. You just come in with the haymakers right out the gate. Okay. So this is where you're at now, but you said you started small town Mississippi. I think I heard you describe it one time. Like there was one doctor and like one gas station. And like where did this awakening for you come from? Like me, this young man from Mississippi, can make a change in this whole world. How did you even begin your own journey to discovering your purpose?
Yeah, you know, people laugh when I tell them this, but this is no exaggeration. When I tell the story about where I'm from, it's no embellishment at all. Like my high school graduating class was like 33 people. There's literally, seriously, there's one doctor. So like the shows where there's the town doctor, bro. That's my town. Yo, you couldn't even set an appointment. No, I'm serious. Like you couldn't set an appointment. You just had to pull up to the doctor's clinic and you just had to know I'm probably going to be here all day unless I get here super early and try to be the first one. The doctor knew everybody in the town, no stoplights, one full-time police officer, one part-time police officer who lived on my street. He covered the night shift and he drove my bus during the day. Yo, my parents still told me he lives on the same street. So like literally that's where I come from. And I am not in any way saying, I want to be clear, I'm not saying in any way external circumstances and environments don't matter. But I am saying that I think we overrate and we overestimate where you come from and your surroundings on the outside. I think we put too much value on that because literally your history does not always determine your destiny. And so for me, this is what happened. I feel like me growing up in that small town, really all we had was each other. So God used that, right? That wasn't a disadvantage, that was an advantage, right? Some stuff that we feel like is nuisance, it's necessary. So God used that little small experience, that experience in that small town for me, basically, to really shape my value for people. Cause that's all you had. You didn't have nothing to do. So you just had to hang out with people. And I feel like it started there, a love for people. And then that just kind of progressed when I got to college. I had this sense I was going to law school, but then I had, after undergrad, I just had this sense I was supposed to use my life to serve people in a different way. And what I tell people all the time is that for me, it wasn't about discovering my life's purpose. It was just about discovering the contribution I was supposed to make in the season I was in. And then just being faithful to that contribution in different seasons. And then ultimately, I feel like that's what leads you to your purpose.
Now, this thing called purpose, I think it takes on a million different definitions depending on who you're talking to or who you're listening to. You went on an extensive journey for this book, but this has kind of been the precipice of your life's work, period. So, for those who are wondering, what, according to Dr. Dharius Daniels, is purpose?
Yeah, you're right, bro. There are a zillion definitions of it. So, and I think it's space for that. You know what I mean? I think there's flexibility for that. I think there's room for that. But for me, here's a working definition that I use. It is the reason or the reasons for the existence of a thing. Literally, that's it. Purpose is the reason or the reasons for the existence of a thing. So it's possible for something to exist, right? And not be consistent with the reason it exists. So it's like, yo, I'm using a mic for this podcast. So this mic exists, but I can use this mic for a door stopper too. Like I could put it in, I can I can put it at the bottom of the door. They can stop the door from closing. So it's being used, but it's not being used for the reason it was created. And so for me, that's kind of the way that I look at it. I don't think anyone is existing by accident. I think we all got unique design and unique desires and unique dreams. And when we discover the reason and the reasons for our existence, that is our purpose. At least that's the definition I'm rocking with right now.
No, that's a great definition. And I want to follow that up with a quote from your book that I had to write down, and it may end up in a future sermon. I'm just
Use it.
saying.
It's yours, brother. Use it.
This is so strong. You said if you become someone other than who you've been created to become, then you won't be able to do what you were created to do.
Yeah.
That's how important this is. Like you could literally go through this life and waste it if you don't go on this journey. Is that what you're trying to get us to see?
1000%. And watch this. You use the word waste. I think that's such an appropriate word because wasting it isn't just doing nothing with it. Wasting it can be doing the wrong thing with it. And when I say the wrong thing, I don't mean like an unethical thing. I just mean the thing that you weren't necessarily created to do. You know, bro, I feel like really at the heart of that quote, that quote like really speaks to the heart of the book, which is really not just about purpose in and of itself. It's about understanding, embracing, and unleashing your uniqueness. Like I'm really encouraging people to push back against the pressure to conform, push back against the tendency to compare ourselves, and to really understand and embrace and unleash your uniqueness. We're not just trying to make a difference. We want to make our difference. And man, that's what it's all about for me.
I think that for a lot of people, even if they are open, their heart is open to the process. They're in pursuit of living in their purpose. They want to. I think a trap is falling for the prescribed definitions from other people of what our purpose is. For in the African American context, unfortunately, a lot of times that happens from the church. Or I see this on you. You're going to be this, or you should be that. And then if you're a good student or if you're a good athlete, people want to assign that as who you are. That's what your purpose is. So, how do we, as we walk through, because a lot of times these voices are trusted voices in our life. These are people that we aspire to be like, that we look up to, and their words hold weight for us. And how do we balance hearing from God, who is the assigner of our purpose, and hearing from these trusted voices, or these voices that have oversight in our life, teachers, coaches, pastors, bosses? How do we balance all of these voices and find through all this noise what our actual purpose is?
Oh, you talking spicy. You just went there. Okay. It's like, yo, you just called that out, bro. That's that you just touched that sacred cow right there because you are right. You are right. That it is almost as if we hold on to those assumed identities when we get them in a religious context in a way that is different from even the identities that are assigned to us in our own home. Because many of us didn't grow up seeing our home as sacred, but we see the church as sacred. So there's this conflation between what a servant of God says and God, and it's not not always true. So, yo, let's talk about it. We out here now. So
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. You're here. I say I'm not going to waste it. I want to know.
so one of the things I think is kind of a perspective shift, right? And that is, I'm gonna tell you this conversation, right? So I'm in seminary, and there's this guy that's there. And this guy, so I'm in seminary, I'm going to go into ministry when I'm done. This guy is going into professorship. So he's going to the PhD program. I'm going to graduate. I'm going to go to ministry. So we sitting at lunch, bro. I'll never forget this. And he looked at me. He said, "You know what the problem is with y'all preachers?" I said, "Y'all preachers?" He's like, "What? What are you talking, bro? We both in seminary. What are you talking about?" He said, "Nah." He said, "This is the problem." He says, "Y'all confuse anointed with omniscient." I say, "Bro, wait a minute." Yeah, he said, "Y'all confuse anointed with omniscient." He's like, "Man, just because you're anointed to do a thing doesn't mean you know everything. And because you don't know everything, you need to manage even some of your convictions with a degree of humility. Because even though you're trying to do right, you can get it wrong." And I think that's the first thing I would say to someone who's trying to untangle themselves from this like assumed identity that they got from church or from culture or whatever. Sometimes people who love you right can steer you wrong. It's just it is what it is. It's it's life. But this is what I want to tell people though, man. Listen, your purpose is your responsibility. That is your like other people have opinions about it. Other people have preferences regarding what you're supposed to do with your life, but you stewarding your life faithfully to or faithfully in accordance to what you feel like you've been called and created to do, man, that's your responsibility. And so I really think that it's important for people to receive, you know, people's input that loves them and let that input contribute, but not control the conclusions they come to about their purpose, man.
Now I know that you said that you experience this in various forms over your life, and even in your ministerial career, where there were some trusted voices, where you had some like out the box ideas about how you were going to go about impacting the world, and they was like, maybe you should just stick to this. You're having success at this, and this is how it's always been done. So I think part of the journey to walking in your purpose is courage. You need courage to know that what the Lord has placed on your heart to do, and even the methods or strategies that He's given you, will work. So when you were trying, when people were trying to place you in a box that was different than the purpose that you knew God had on your life, what type of internal work are you doing to not let them take you off course or not shove you in that box?
Man, that's a great question. You ask good questions. I'll leave that alone. I'll leave that alone. I do a lot of interviews. You ask really good questions. Um, uh, here's the thing I'm gonna say. I had to do a lot of internal work, and I think some of those experiences that you just described that I went through are actually things that expose some work that needed to be done. Because when it comes to people that mentor you or coach you or people that you look up to, there may be a part of you that wants to please them. And I don't know how much you're exposed to that until you put in a situation where you got to make a decision that you don't think pleases them. Then you realize, I think I'm kind of people pleasing a little bit in this relationship, or you should value other people's opinion and perspective. But there is such a thing as putting too much value on that opinion or perspective. And so I had to do a lot of internal work, man, as it relates to, all right, man, is there some people pleasing going on here? Is there some unconscious idolatry happening here? Like, why is their opinion weighing so much? And it's not that it shouldn't weigh heavily, right? I'm not saying that some opinions shouldn't carry more weight than others. I'm just talking about the process I had to go through, kind of internally. Like, is there some people pleasing going on here? Why is there some unconscious idolatry happening? It is, do I feel good about me when I feel like they feel good about me? I had to look at that. I had to look at some esteem issues. Like, I feel like you really don't know where your esteem is until you got to stand in isolation. So it's like when when you got to make a decision that kind of puts you on the other side of the line of people that you look to and people that you love, then that tells you a lot about how you feel about yourself. So it took a lot of emotional work. And that's really, bro, what the second section of the book is about. I call it embracing. Like, it's one thing to understand. And I started like sensing, okay, I am called to transform people, help bring about transformations in the life of people so that they can bring about transformations in their world. And church, as the institution, is a vehicle for me to do that. But it is not the only one I've been called to use. So honestly, that's where the tension lies. Let's just get it out there, right? So what I was referring to in the book was that. It was my sense of call to, okay, church is a vehicle. Like some people, like God gives a vision for the church, and then God uses that person to carry it out. For me, God gave me a vision for change, and I needed a church to carry it out. So it was one of the instruments, one of the delivery systems that I needed to use. And so anyway, long story short is it just took some internal work, and that was counseling, man. That was emotional intelligence coaching, and that was me putting those tools into practice to really emotionally embrace the fact that, okay, saying yes to this may mean there's some people that I love and look to that we're going to be in disagreement with each other about this.
Imagine Imagine a life where your money isn't strangled by mortgage payments. Imagine what you could do when you don't have to send them money that you work so hard for. Come get simple, powerful, and real solutions to eliminating monthly mortgage payments forever. America's #1 money couple presents Crush My Mortgage. In this exclusive course, you will be equipped with strategies to help you move faster toward the promised land of owning your house free and clear. Learn strategies to help you in the areas of payment acceleration, extra income generation, and wealth creation, all to help you crush your mortgage. Visit crushmymortgage.com and get started today. Join us on the path to power, freedom, and legacy. That's crushmymortgage.com.
You talk about clues, and one of the clues when we're trying to figure out our purpose, you teach in your book, is what is that thing that bothers you or burdens you that may be unlike the people around you? It may not bother those people around, or it may, but you said that that's a clue as to why you're here. Maybe you said in your book that maybe you're the person that's supposed to solve that problem. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit? Help us find the clues, because some people are like, they're listening to you right now, and it's kind of turning something within them. Like, man, you know what? I'm 25, I'm 35, I'm 40. Like, I need to be figuring out why I'm here. So talk about some of those clues.
That's strong, man. Yeah. So basically in the book, I talk about 4 clues. Cause so, man, and it's one of the reasons I wrote the book, bro, because so many people are so confused about this. It was actually a little scary. You know what I mean? And I think I found out more of people's confusion about this when I got into the coaching space, more so than I did in the pastoral space, because people aren't always as transparent in church. So that's a completely different um yeah, it's like, yeah, I don't know if there's this religious pressure, this facade or whatever, but they are not the most vulnerable. But when I got in the coaching space, right, that's when, to help people experience transformations, they were just way more transparent. I saw, man, it's way too many people that are just not clear on this. And so I just came up like, hey, these are 4 things to think through to make it really simple. And one of them, which is what you're referring to, is something I call unique discontent. And when I say discontent, I feel like I call that like a divine agitation. I'm like, yo, this is something that uniquely bothers you. And this is what I mean. Me and you both can walk in a room, right? And you see something, it bother you, and it not bother me at all. Right? I'm straight. But for you, you're like, I gotta pick that up. I gotta pick that up. I can't, I gotta pick that up. It's just bother you. And one of the things that I say is this: that's a clue. That's an indication. Because purpose is the creation of a thing. Purpose is the reason for the creation or existence of a thing, right? But the reason for the creation or existence of a thing is to solve a problem. So purpose is the answer to a problem. Whenever somebody creates something, it solves a problem. This mic, I mentioned it earlier, it solves like a volume problem. So the problem that agitates you the most might be the problem you've been created to solve. you know and so that's a clue for people. It's like, man, what stuff do you look out in the world and it's just like, this just bothers me, and it's incessant, and it's resilient, and it's stubborn, and it won't leave me alone. I think that's one of the clues. So like for me, one of the things that breaks my heart is that people is for people who want to change, who want to elevate, who want to optimize, and they can't. That bothers me. So they can be on their way to heaven, and I'm still bothered that they're not experiencing more of heaven on earth. And so, yeah, that's it, man. It's that unique discontent.
Is there room for grace, and is there room for grind on the journey to discovering your purpose? Here's my heart behind this, because as you're talking, I'm just kind of looking over my timeline. In high school, football player, box of scholarship opportunities, but suddenly in 12th grade, I didn't want to play football anymore. So I never went on a school visit, didn't take any scholarships, went into the military. Now in high school, you couldn't tell me I wasn't going to go to NFL, but all of a sudden God switched it. Went into the military for 12 years. And you couldn't tell me I wasn't going to be the next Colin Powell, but then God switched it at year 12. Then I went into education, and I thought, I'm going to go all the way up to superintendent. I'm going to make a change that way in the education world. And I got all the way to assistant principal, about to be on the verge of becoming a principal, and God switched it. Now here I am as a pastor, in addition to what we do with His and Her Money, And I'm looking back, I'm like, I use stuff from each one of those in this current assignment. It means that that wasn't wasted. It means that it was a piece of the puzzle that I'm supposed to use. And this may be a piece for a future puzzle. But I think that for when you have that purpose conversation, if you don't feel like you're in it in totality today, you're like, man, what am I need to do X, Y, and Z. I'm not doing what the Lord wants me to do, but it's a journey. So there has to be room for grace, but there still has to be room for the grind. You still have to be putting in the work of trying to do what you feel that you're called to do. So as we're walking down this path, how do we navigate the frustration that we may feel as though I'm not walking in the fullness of what God called me to be? How do I have grace for myself, but then also know that I'm on a journey, that I still need to be working and grinding my way towards the ultimate goal of being who God created me to be?
Man, I love that. And I think you're so spot on. So, yeah. So, is there room for both? 100%. So, grind, which would be works, right? To me, is an expression of faith. And that's what separates faith from like optimism. So, some stuff we call faith is like optimism. If there's no action, it's not faith, it's optimism, right? And I don't want to go down a rabbit trail there, but the your willingness to build an ark is evidence that you believe is going to rain. If you're not building the ark, you don't believe it's going to rain. Your actions are telling you something about what you really believe. And most people don't know what they believe. And when I say that, I mean, anyway. So the point that I'm making is yes, man, there is room for both. Uh, but you hit on something that I just think is so, so important. And I talk about this in the book too. I believe it's one of the most important parts of the book, is one of the most clarifying aspects, I think, of the book when it comes to this conversation about purpose. So let's go back to you being in military. Some people would say, I'm in the military, I'm on my way to my purpose. I'm saying you are in it. Because what you were doing is this. There are three things I talk about in the book you got to be clear on: calling, role, and purpose. So God calls us to certain roles in certain seasons. And your willingness to say yes to the role, which is a set of responsibilities he gives you, your willingness to say yes to the responsibilities that you've been given in that certain season is what keeps you on path or on track for purpose. So your life's purpose comprises a number of yeses, not just one yes. You had to say yes to military. You had to say yes to education. Then you had to say, am I making sense? So God calls you to different roles. And so your faithfulness to those roles in that season was a part of your purpose. There's a contribution you made to people in the military when you were there. And there was some contributions that experience made for you. Then in education, there's some difference you made when you were there, which is part of God's plan for your life, but it also shaped you. And now that you're in what one of my leadership coaches would call your sweet spot, which is you peaking now. My pastor calls it LeBroning. You LeBroning now, where it's like all of this stuff and all of these. So you got these experience. You got enough time in the game to have all these experiences, but you got enough time ahead of you to have the energy to do something with it. That's that sweet spot. So you peaking now, you LeBron, and it's when you Billy Graham in the stadiums. You know what I'm saying? And so I think most people confuse their sweet spot with their whole purpose, when your sweet spot is just the season in your purpose where you're peaking. Because once you move out of that, you move into legacy, which is just as much as a part of your purpose. So Billy Graham doing stadiums, he peaking. That's the sweet spot. But people going to North Carolina to sit with him at his ranch, that's legacy. And both of its purpose. One's more popular, but it's all purpose.
Yeah, man, that's so good. So good. Now, a lot of people that listen to our show are in relationships or married. You're a husband and a father. So I'm curious, not even like the right now conversations, but the conversations over the years that you and your wife Shamika have had as you've been trying to figure out and walk out your purpose, as she's been trying to figure out and walk out her purpose. How do we have healthy conversations within the context of a relationship about our journey, about what we feel the Lord is calling us to? How do we have those healthy deep conversations with our significant other?
Oh man, I, I don't want to say because I don't want to cause any controversy. Sometimes I can say things that are
We welcome it. Let's go.
but it's hard to do that right if you picked wrong.
Ooh-wee.
And there are some people who have, and I'm not even gonna call it theology, an ideology of sovereignty that assumes that every pick you make is God's. And I just, if you apply, we don't apply that logic anywhere else except for relationships. You know what I mean? And I think like when I look at Abraham getting ready to pick somebody for Lot, he gives this Isaac, I'm sorry, getting ready to pick somebody. He gives the servant criteria. He was like, "Yo, don't pick from here. Look for this, because there is such a thing as calling compatibility."
Calling compatibility.
Yeah,
Compatibility. Make sure y'all
yeah,
write that down.
yeah. It's like, and so, which is why you want people you want to have a sense of your assignment, and I'm going to answer your question because that's one thing I got early. I got a sense of my assignment early, so I had a sense of where I was going, so I knew who to put in the car with me. So I literally, no, bro, I literally, by the time I met my wife, I was going to law school. And so we date. So we were dating. We were in college. So I knew I was going to go to law school. So bro, we dating, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go to law school. I'm gonna do this, but I'm also in ministry. So da da da. And like, so I shoot real straight. So I'm like, hey, after college for the next 3 years, I'm gonna be broke. It's just like, wow, I need you to know that because I need to see if you're the kind of why. Because God gave me responsibility to tend the garden before you got here. Like I was clear on my assignment before you got here. So even though I love you and I want you to be a part of my life, I can't make an idol out of you. So I'm gonna be broke for the next 3 years. Are you cool with that? And I'll never forget, man, my roommate at that time, who actually works now in one of our companies, like this is a long time ago, he was sitting on the couch with and she was like literally in the kitchen doing something. She was like, "That's cool. I'll support you where you go to law school." My roommate looked over at me and mouthed and said, "She the one." So that picking part is right. Is so important because those conversations are a little easier when you're just with someone who's compatible with your calling. If not, you're just going to have, as much wisdom, as much tact as you have. And hopefully this person has character traits that are open and amenable to, embracing some things that they just don't understand, you know, but I feel like, I feel like the pick is 70% of that. It's who, it's because it's some people. Listen, I've been doing this thing a long time, bro. It's some people. It doesn't matter how you say it; they're not gonna get it.
You're right. I'm wondering, as you were ascending the mountain of your purpose, did it scare you? Because some people, that fear is what's holding them back from pursuing. So you've done some big things over your career. You're going to do some big things as you continue to move forward. Did it ever, as it was being revealed or unveiled to you in pieces, did it scare you? Did you have any fear about like, how am I going to do that? When that arose, how did you combat it?
It's a great question. So there was some fear, um, but my fear regarding, I think my purpose was not necessarily around the greatness of what I saw coming, because for whatever reason, that wasn't my story. I didn't see that. Some people do. I didn't. The whatever influence I have now, I didn't see myself with it. I never did. So that's my story. So my fear wasn't because of that. My fear was at different points of the journey, some of the things I feel like I had to give up in order to stay faithful to the path God was laying out to me. So like my fear was I'm about to be broke forever. Not going to law school. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, bro, who doesn't go to law school and goes to seminary? It's just like, what? Like, so that was fear, man. taking the leap, and I talk a little bit about this in the book, taking the leap to do some of the other things that I felt called and gifted to do outside the context of the local church, that was fear. Because I'm like, how's that going to be perceived? How's that going to be perceived not just by the general public? How's it going to be perceived by the congregation that I'm serving? Is this about to adversely impact some things? So one of the things that I say to answer part of the question, like, yo, how did you deal with it? I don't know how to tell people to evict fear. Maybe you can. I don't know how to do that yet. What I do know how to do is replace an inferior fear with a superior fear. So I was never not afraid to abandon law school. Like I never got to the point where it's like, I'm not scared. It was just, I was more scared not to. So I replaced that inferior fear with the fear of the Lord. So it's like, man, I'm scared to do this, but I'm scared not to. So here it is. And and each time I have to make one of those steps, that's exactly what I do.
Man. So as we get ready to get towards the end, I know you got a busy schedule. If someone is ready to take the journey, you've encouraged them enough to know that they don't want to waste not another day not pursuing the thing that God created them to pursue, what would be the first step you would want them to take after the conclusion of this episode?
This is about to sound so salesy, but it's not. I even have a different view on books now. I write books because they're the most consistent source for transmitting information throughout the history of human civilization. Books have been around since the beginning of time. 8-tracks and CDs and cassettes and DVDs, all of that stuff hasn't. So I'm not just trying to push books here. I write them for a reason. But I'm going to say get the book. That's going to be the next step. It's going to be get the book and apply it. Because it's not just about purpose. It's about understanding. I'm going to help you understand. I'm going to help you embrace. So I'm going to help you actually do the heart work that gets in the way of embracing your unique design and then unleashing it. We're going to talk practically about, how do you throw the rock in your slingshot? Like if you got a rock in a slingshot, great, but you change nothing if you don't throw it. And everything by God's grace I've been able to accomplish or do is because I threw the rock. Like he gave me the idea, but I had to throw the rock. And literally that would be my encouragement for people as it relates to their next step.
And the name of the book is Your Purpose is Calling. We have a link to it in the show notes of this episode. If you're listening via audio podcast, just scroll up and you'll see the link there. If you are watching us on YouTube, look right in the description box underneath this video and you will find the link there. Dr. Dharius, people may also want to keep up with you in addition to getting the book. So how can they keep up with you on the social medias of your choice?
Yeah. So what we tell people is everything is Dharius Daniels. That's DHARIUS. So that makes it kind of simple. We're on all social media platforms. Our website is DhariusDaniels.com. And that's actually the hub where if you go to DhariusDaniels.com, it will lead you to where you feel like you want to go next. This is one of the things I learned, bro. Everybody doesn't want all of you, but don't fail to present all of you just because people want some of you. So DhariusDaniels.com. It's all different parts of me there. You can pick the part that you want.
Awesome. We'll be sure to have that linked up as well. Any parting things, because we all have an enemy that looks to steal, kill, and destroy. And
100%.
they may be fired up right now, but after they log off, life is going to come at them.
Yeah.
Any final words that you would have to encourage people
Yes.
to pursue all when it comes to their purpose?
100%. And it's this, my coach and mentor taught me this, that in order to do something long-term, you need more than willpower. You need why power. Willpower run out. It's the why that gets you through your walls. And so purpose really not about purpose. Like just chasing purpose is not enough. You need to chase what purpose brings. And this is what it brings. It brings you peace. So my question is, do you want that? It brings you productivity. You're able to do more in less time. Do you want that? And then it brings you profit. Do you want that? I'm not saying every aspect of your purpose is profitable, but some aspects of your purpose are profitable. And God's giving you gifts that should be used primarily for your purpose, but not exclusively for your purpose. You can use those gifts that are valuable to create streams that either free you up to focus more on your purpose or fund things that you actually care about, so that you are not at the mercy of the generosity of somebody else to fund something that actually matters to you. That's what you want. And you only get that when you get purpose.
Man, well said. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to come and share your wisdom with us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, brother.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another fantastic edition of the His and Her Money Show is in the books. Again, the name of the book is Your Purpose is Calling, Dr. Dharius Daniels. We have a link to it in the show notes. Click it, get the book, and start the journey to discovering why you're here and what you're supposed to be doing. It's important. All right, that's all we got for this time, guys. It's been great. Until next time, peace.